Can hear you, Richard. Thanks, mate. Just let everyone know we are recording the call, and we'll be sending the recording out later on, just so you're aware. Okay, just a bit of housekeeping again, like last time. Those that joined us, please keep your mics on mute, and if you can turn your videos off if they're on. We will be taking questions at various points throughout the call, and we'll have a pause at various points. But if you want to use the chat feature to raise any questions throughout, and then we'll pick them up at the relevant points. Also, there's the raise your hand feature on the call tab. So if you've got a question, just use that, and then we'll pause at the right time to bring you in and ask the question. We want the call to be fairly interactive, so if there is questions you want to raise, then at the right time, just unmute your mic and you can ask it, or raise your hand, as I said. There will be a point at the end where we'll take questions and open it up. Okay. In terms of the agenda, then, I'm going to give you a bit of a quick update on where we're at as the foundation, staffing wise, and what we're up to. Charlie's going to talk you through this test, which is the new Ucb campaign. We have a bit of a discussion around the Ucb guidelines on use of outdoor space. Mick's going to give you an update on funding and safeguarding. And we've got Adam Hitchcock and Alex Nuttall on the call from the ACO, who are just going to give you a bit of an update on what they've been doing over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. And then towards the end of the call, we'll have a bit of a Q&A and an opportunity for you as clubs to discuss what's going on in your worlds. But as I said, if at any point you want to ask a question, just either use the raise hand feature or put a question in the chat, and we'll pick it up at the right time. Okay. In terms of an update from us, I think last time we did the call, we'd furloughed about 6 members of staff. Since then, we furloughed 3 more, and there's now 3 of us working. So there's myself, Mick, and Charlie. Obviously, the furlough schemes that protect the business and protect jobs, and that's how we're seeing it. We want to make sure that staff have got jobs to come back to at the end of all this. So we're trying to protect that and create some long-term sustainability. We are obviously continuing between the 3 of us to try and speak to clubs and support you the best we can. Obviously Mick and Charlie are doing the bulk of that and ringing round and trying to support you. But if there's anything you need to discuss with us, then you know where we are. Our details are at the end of the slide. We're keen to hear what you're doing and what's going on. So if there's any challenges or anything that you want to share with us, then pick up the phone. Sorry. From a strategy point of view, those that attended our forums in October, we talked about the process we were going through to develop our strategy for the next 5 years. Obviously, with the impact of COVID, we're having to review that now and look at what that looks like going forward. We've still got some uncertainty around our funding. So at the moment, we've got guaranteed funding up to the end of July from the Ucb, and then we're still waiting to hear as to what funding looks like going forward. We did have a 5-year funding agreement with the Ucb, but it's likely that might be impacted upon based on COVID-19. Just from a communication point of view, those that are following us on social media will see that there's been plenty of activity going on there. We're trying to put posts on that are engaging. We're running a feature club per day for the whole of June, so I think we've had about 40 clubs express an interest in that, and we're looking to just feature each club each day with some interesting facts about the club and some photos of the club. So look out for that, and thank you for those who are engaging in those posts. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Charlie. Charlie's going to talk you through this test, which is obviously the Ucb initiative. I'm sure plenty of you have seen that now, but I'll just let Charlie take you through that. Charlie, you want to just check your microphone?
Cheers, Rich. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cheers, mate. Afternoon, everyone. Hope you're well. just going to run you through quickly the ECB's new campaign together through this test. Quite simple, really. There's not masses to it. You've probably seen it on social media and various other places. It's designed to celebrate all the cricket initiatives that are happening across the game and supporting the nation during COVID-19. It's designed to put cricket on the map to say, what is cricket doing for the wider community during this time, and also a resource bank for clubs. It includes a short film narrated by Stephen Fry, an online hub bringing together some resources to support the game, the nation, and clubs within the game. And as I said, it's designed to celebrate the hundreds of initiatives that are happening across the network. So we've got the video on here. So if you have not seen it, we're going to play it now. And if you have seen it, I'm sure you won't mind watching it again. Get that going, Rich.
The one thing you can say about us is that we are good at waiting. It's what we do. We wait out the winter and count down through spring. We're quite used to waiting for things to begin. We wait for the groundsman to summon up grass. We wait for the umpire to rattle the brass. We wait for the weather, the gloam and the rain. We wait overnight for the next bit of the game. We wait our turn whilst cheering those in. We wait out the bowler with the devilish spin. We wait through a session when it's not our day. We wait through the years that don't go our way. Our parents waited, our grandparents and their parents too. We waited before, and we lost quite a few. We built this game, the country that queues, as waiting doesn't mean there's nothing to do.
This isn't easy.
We all miss cricket.
But this is making a difference.
Thank you for all you're doing.
So we will wait, dig in, play straight, keep guard, play for the team. Every run scored is hard.
I'm going to be donating this shirt.
We will win with some help on the end of the line. When you carry your bat, you don't carry it alone.
Donate to such a great cause.
Our team, our game, our country at our best, as we stand together.
Through this test.
Hi everyone, hope you're well.
I hope you're all staying safe at home.
Hope you're looking after yourselves, keep yourselves active.
Try and do something fun every day, no matter what that looks like to you.
We will wait this out. Our longest review. We will wait it out. Because that's what we do.
Okay, cheers, Rich. I think you'll agree it's a pretty powerful video, well narrated by Stephen Fry. It was just a poem sent in from a club volunteer to the ECB, and they decided to use that as part of the campaign video. So just a bit more in depth about the campaign and the resources available. The ECB has set up a COVID-19 resource hub on its website, so I'd recommend you all take a look at this. On there's 3 sections. There's a section for health and well-being, a section for parents and junior players, and a section for clubs resources and the resource pack for the clubs. Within the health and well-being section, there's some general mental, physical health support, and as well as some general public NHS information. There's some Vitality Fit for Cricket Challenges series, so it's about keeping fit and active during the lockdown. For kids in the parent section, there's lots of cricket at home resources. Lord Taverners have got an online hub there for cricket-based activities, and Chance to Shine have partnered up with ECB as always in order to provide a lot of primary age cricket at home lessons, both homeschooling and some active outdoor cricket stuff. And within the club section, the final section, there's a lot of support provided about emergency funds, resources, and lots of other things you as a club can be doing during this time in order to help better engage your members, engage with the community, and just generally help out during this time. So I'd really recommend having a look at that. There's lots of stuff on there, and I'm sure all of you will find at least something on there that's helpful or useful. Just next slide, please, Rich. This is just how they're going to collect the data. So a bit here about what they've collected so far and all the initiatives that they know about, but they're really keen to gather more of that. They want to know what clubs are doing. They want to know what county boards are doing. So please do share any stuff that your club's doing, either to help the community, to help yourselves, any fundraising initiatives, or anything just to keep your members active and engaged and thinking about cricket during this time. Will help feed this into the Together This test campaign. So please do let us know if there's anything that you're up to. We want to know. Thanks. That's all from me, Rich.
Thanks, Charlie. I'd just add that, we're really keen as a county to showcase some of the great work we're doing within the club network. So, a bit of a plea really that you share with us, any initiatives or ideas that you've got or that you're running, so we can push them through to the UCB and get them on that map that you've just seen. We've already featured a couple of articles already. So one on Worksworth, who were doing a food bank, or supporting a food bank with some fundraising. Sandy Acre have been running around the country visiting all the first class counties, obviously virtually, not actually visiting them. And I think Darley-Dale are doing something really good at the moment, raising money through some running. So there's some great initiatives, and we want to hear what you're up to, so please do share them with us. Okay, I'm just going to move it on. In fact, before I do, has anyone got any questions on Together Through this test? Either put them on the chat or just raise your hand if you have. No, okay. So just going to move on to the Ucb guidelines. I'm not going to go through all the detail on the screen. Everyone should have received the Ucb guidelines now through Play Cricket and then through ourselves sending them out. Obviously, the guidelines were put together based on government and medical advice, along with Sport England. They have been put together to ensure the safety of everyone within your club environment and the general public. But what they do allow now is for people from the same household to go and use your facilities, your outdoor space that is, so not indoor. Obviously, they would need to book that, but it also allows one person from one household to meet with another person from another household at the club and train together. Obviously, following social distancing, that is key, that there's strict social distancing measures put in place. And I guess, everyone should have seen this now, and we're aware that many clubs have started to implement booking systems and are starting to operate their outdoor spaces. We'll have an opportunity in a minute or two just to see who's doing what and who is up and running, and hopefully share some ideas and ways of doing that. A couple of things that came out of that initial guideline. So there were some questions raised with us, but also raised with the ECB, mainly geared around the stipulation around which representative that a representative must be present at the ground during each booked session. Now, that I think many clubs saw that as well. You've got to have one person at the club all day, and the same person. The ECB have given some further guidance on that to say that it basically can be individuals throughout the day that have been given responsibility. So an example may be a senior player that wants to go and use the facilities with their family. That player could be the person that is appointed by the club to undertake the role. So that could be the same for each booking. The key things are, though, that person's been briefed. They fully understand the guidance and procedures that need to be implemented. They're also aware how to communicate any breach of the booking conditions. So, for instance, if someone else turns up when they're not supposed to be there, how they deal with that. And I guess the key thing is that person can participate in the session. So The example I just gave, the person wants to have a hit with their family or use the outfield and play some games, then they can do that, and they can still be responsible for the site. The second batch of guidance also gave clarity on coaches running one-to-one coaching, so they are allowed to operate now and run one-to-one sessions with back-to-back one-to-one. So for instance, they might have someone come in for 40 minutes, have a 10-15 minute break in between to clean down any surfaces or anything that have been in contact with the individual, and then another one-to-one can come in afterwards. So that is perfectly okay. Obviously still need to follow the guidelines around sanitisation and things. I guess the key one is that whoever is responsible still needs to comply with the health and safety requirements, so ensuring that there's access to first aid and appropriate emergency equipment and so on. There is, ideally there would be the toilets opened up if needs be, or if that's appropriate for that person to do so. But I hope that just gives a bit of clarity on what is possible, and that it doesn't just have to be one individual manning the club, for the whole day. As I said, I'm going to give you an opportunity in a minute or two just to share anyone that's opened the club to share what they're doing. But we have got an example. I think Crystal is on the call actually, so he might want to back up with anything in a second. But this is a letter that was issued from Quandon to their members, and it's basically just summarising the requirements and guidelines with some clear rules and restrictions in place. Explaining how many people can be on the site, what they need to do and who they need to be with. The booking system is pretty simple, so it's that they've just gone with a contact Steve Hollis to book. They've provided his contact details, which obviously I've blanked out on here. But the key thing on here is that they're only opening for 2 slots a week, so Mondays and Tuesdays between 11 and 4. Whereas I think some people thought that it meant you've got to be open all day every day, but that isn't the case. It's for you to decide as clubs how little or often you need to be open for, or you can accommodate. So I hope that helps just summarise a little bit the restrictions and what needs to be put in place, but also that it's not quite as daunting as it probably may have seemed to start with. Chris, is there anything you'd like to add to that from a Quandon point of view that might help others? You're on mute.
I think, Richard, only to say that we're doing this on a trial basis only, and we'll review how it works after the first couple of weeks. We haven't committed to do this any longer than the first 2 weeks in June, just to keep our options open. So that's the only point I think I would like to add.
Okay, yeah, that's great, thanks. Now we are aware that there's a lot of clubs starting to operate now, and some are using an Excel spreadsheet as a booking system, some are using Google Calendars. There are quite a few that are using apps now. There are quite a few apps out there. There was some on the earlier call that were mentioned that sounded quite good, and we'll share them with you. But I'd be interested now if two things. If clubs are up and running and utilising their outdoor space in some way, could you just put a message in the chat just to say that you are and which club it is? That would be great, and then we can just keep a log of who's up and running. It'd be nice to see how many clubs are doing that. Secondly, then just open it up really, probably by way of either through the chat or use the raise your hand function. If there are any clubs that want to share what they've put in place so far, I think that might help some people on the call. So yeah, if anyone wants to tell us what they're doing, that'd be good. Dave, do you want to unmute yourself? Responding.
Very, very unusual for me to be muted anywhere, but
I thought you'd be straight in, Dave.
Yeah. Well, we prepared for this probably 2 weeks before we had the guidance, and I spoke to Mick and Charlie about it, and the biggest problem we had was what was a club representative, which you through Charlie gave some clarity, and I noticed the UCB have given further clarity. we're quite lucky because we've got about 25 level 2 coaches at Spondon. Most of these have volunteered to be the club rep. So you get everything. You get a coach, you've got first aid, you've got safeguarding, and we're using Google, the one we use in the office, Google.
Yeah, Google Calendar.
Google Calendar, and it's working really well.
Yeah.
So our nets are open 7 days a week at the moment.
Okay, I presume, Dave, that there's only so many. Well, you only got the two
The
nets
only,
at the top, haven't you?
we only use one net at the top.
Yeah.
There can only be, obviously, the family. If it's obviously the Kellogg, there's 4 of them in a family, so they can go, but they're covered because 2 of them are level 2 coaches.
Yeah.
And everybody's got a gate key. And obviously Paul Allen's running his one-on-one business. He books out 3-hour slots each day. Everybody has to bring their own kit.
Yeah.
Nobody's got access to the club, but each coach does have a key if somebody needs to go to the toilet.
Okay.
And obviously with HSG being our sponsor, we obviously have quite a lot of washroom stuff on hand.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks for that, Dave.
Working well.
Great stuff. Thank you. Any others want to share what they're doing?
There's a few good ones on the chat.
Yeah. Dan, Langley Mill, is there anything you can share with us, what you're doing? You're on mute, Dan.
Hey guys. Yeah. I'm off mute, aren't I?
Yeah.
We're just organising it through the WhatsApp group. As of next week, we're engaging with a level 2 coach who's going to be doing some one-to-one kids coaching in slots as well.
Right, okay.
We are preparing, and this just probably goes away from cricket slightly because we're like a good bar take at Langley Mill to keep the club going, but we are preparing, and I'll advise any other clubs that's in the same situation with a bar. But when the 1st of July kicks in, some of us got the biggest beer gardens in the villages and in the towns, haven't we? So we're going to be encouraging people to be coming down to the ground and getting measures certainly in place over the weekends with social distancing to start getting the bar open and getting some much needed revenue in there as well. So that's something that's just going on in the background at Langley Mill, and I'd advise any club that can do that and promote it through Facebook or whatever. It's a safe place to come, and families nip down with a blanket and sit like they would at Shipley Park or somewhere like that, and probably get a pint out to them somewhere.
Yeah, I guess the only thing with that, Dan, is we're obviously reliant, aren't we, on what comes out of government. Obviously, at the moment we can't do that, but I think as soon as that is an option, then you're right in terms of the space and the opportunity to social distance and things.
It's very much looking like it's going to be coming out probably around early July. I think that's kind of the path. So we're just planning for that.
Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. Thank you. Hadders, I see you've got your hand up. You're on mute, Hadders.
Yeah. I'm just too slow to push the button. Yeah, we put our booking system on the Play Cricket website using some free software, which means that people have to log on and book, but the person who's administrating that can see who they are. But obviously, anyone else booking on can just see that the slot's being booked, but not actually who's booked it. So obviously that protects us from a data point of view. Right, well, I guess the difficulty overall is because we got such a kind of, let's face it, an open site. You can't stop people whether they're members or non-members. You can't police it at all times. But we're doing our best and relying on the integrity of our members to do the right thing. On that website, there's also the UCB guidelines plus our own club guidelines, sort of repeated ad nauseam, company signs around the net area. So so far it's gone fine. Not been aware of any sort of major problems, other than a member of the public whinging that a group were not socially distancing, but they were all part of the same family. So we appreciate the feedback, but you're going to get a little bit of that, aren't you? But overall, it's not working too bad.
Yeah, I think you've got a challenge on you in the fact that it's a massive open space around the Duffield cricket ground. So you're always going to have that challenge, aren't you, of people just walking onto the ground. But yeah, you've got to do it the best way you can. Thanks for that. Just conscious of time. Has anyone else got anything to add just on the guidelines? Is that helpful? There's just one point actually. If you wouldn't mind just putting on in the chat if you know what that software is that you're using linked to play cricket, that'd be helpful.
I can't use the chat because I'm on that guest access, right?
Okay.
But I'll forward it to you.
Great stuff, and then we'll share it if you're okay with that. You're just breaking up, Hadders.
I said, don't ask me how it works, but it does work. Tell you what it's for. Yeah.
No problem. Great stuff, thank you. Right, I'm just going to move it on. We will have an opportunity at the end for any more questions, so if you have got anything, just hang fire till then. I'm just going to bring Mick in now, just to talk about some of the funding support. Mick?
Can you hear me, Richard?
Yes, yeah. Nice one, thank you.
Yeah, just to let people know, there's a slight delay on me getting the internet through. I've just changed over, so just go onto the chat or put your hand up, or if there's a question and Richard can introduce it. So I'm just going to, so for example, I haven't quite got the information's not come through yet, so I'm just reading off one or two things that I can remember. So in terms of at the last, that is a long delay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of the last webinar, we spoke about all sorts of bits of financial support. So really, the first thing I wanted to say was thank you for clubs for being so proactive in accessing what has been available to support you at this difficult time. And there's just a couple of figures up there where we are at the moment. In terms of the small business support grant from the government, £565,000 is where we are at the moment, and we're chasing all the other clubs up. Any club that we think could access this, we are trying to follow up. And secondly, the Sporting and Emergency Fund, we know that 37 clubs have been successful, totaling £133,000. So I think we've been pretty proactive in doing what we can to mitigate against the loss of income that we've got. People will have seen that the Sporting and Emergency Fund's been paused for the time being. It may come back on. I think it was paused because of the volume of applications they were getting, and they didn't quite know where they were going to finish up. So we'll wait for further information on that. If you haven't accessed it, and you still feel there may be a need, we will keep people in touch, clubs in touch with that. The next thing I just wanted to mention, the Local Authority Discretionary Grants Fund. So local authorities have been given some additional funding for small and micro businesses, as they're termed, which is what cricket clubs are deemed as. So this is for clubs that weren't eligible for the Small Business Grant Fund or the Retail, Leisure and Hospitality Fund. So if you've already had the £10,000, you can't claim, but this could be an opportunity for clubs, say, that hadn't got a rates bill but have got ongoing cost. I will be sending out further information around that, but it's something for people to have a look into. And then the Derbyshire County Council Community Leadership Scheme. This has been around for many years, where councillors get given an amount of funding that they are is discretionary to them that they can use to support community groups, voluntary organisations in their local area. Now, this fund, the councils have been given an additional amount, which I think is more or less doubling what they'd got in the pot before. So, could be something to talk to with your local council, county council. This is around, particularly when we're returning to cricket. And then the last one that's relatively new, and I'm aware of a couple of clubs following this up. Sport England have linked with Crowdfunder. They've put an extra £1 million into this that they're going to use as match funding. So if clubs through Crowdfunder have got a project that maybe has been impacted on and they've not been able to pursue because of the current situation, they're encouraging clubs to try and go on a crowdfunding local initiative, and they will match fund up to £10,000. So there's a good opportunity if clubs are trying to raise funds themselves to get that match funded through Crowdfunder. And that's all. The link is on the page there. And the last thing I just wanted to mention is it's a very fluid situation as regards funding. So I'd encourage people just to keep your eye on what's happening. Link Interactive Derbyshire, there's a great website there. They do a newsletter, so they'll keep you up to date with all the information as quick, if not quicker, than we're able to. So, I mean, that might be a time to just pause and just think if there are any questions, Richard, or
yeah, Mick, we just had one from Chris, just asking if we know when Sport England funding will land. Chris, do you mean as in when that will be paid into your account or when it will reopen?
When it will land, as in our account. We've had an application accepted, and that was 3 or 4 weeks ago. Just wondering what the timescales are, if you're aware.
I think normally you're looking at, they say something around 28 days. As I say, there's been a huge demand, so whether there's been some delay on that is quite possible. There's been a lot of work to cram in a pretty short space of time. So I think they're up to something like 12,000 applications have come through. So all I say is people, if you perhaps just need to be a bit patient, and if at the time you feel there's, you can give them a nudge. I don't think they'd be offended if somebody did. They realise that sport's been badly affected by the current situation.
Thanks, Mick. Has anyone else got any questions about funding before we move on to the next slide? No, okay.
I guess it's moved on. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll press on. So yeah. I've just got something. There it comes. Just arrived. Thank you very much. Just a couple of things around safeguarding that I thought worth mentioning. People might be aware that with the restrictions that there was a change in the DBS procedure. So it was limited to a small number of users in each county. So ECB staff or primary county users, such as a county welfare officer, myself, Richard, and 1 or 2 others. So your normal club verifiers at the moment won't have access to that to be able to do that. So if you have anyone at the club requires a DBS check, please get in touch. Ask them to get in touch with me, email me or Richard, and we'll be happy to deal with it. Just one thing, that all the DBS applications currently having to be done over video conferencing, so Zoom or Microsoft Teams, something like that. The second thing is, when the lockdown came, we were in the middle of the regular welfare training program, so we didn't complete that. So we're very aware, and the ECB are aware, that there's lots and lots of people out there that are out of training for safe hands or safeguarding courses. Now, what the ECB have done in response to that, and this should be starting the next week or so, they'll be contacting club welfare officers that they're aware of that need to update, and giving them an opportunity to completing online courses that will be valid for 1 year to ensure that people are up to date with training. So I'd just encourage you, if your CWO does need training, please let me know. They should be contacted, but it's quite possible that people might just slip under the radar here, and I'm very sort of aware that I know how seriously clubs take that. So please get in touch with me around any CWO training that's needed. I can see Adders has got a question.
Hi, Mick. What about new welfare officers? Because we're in a situation where we're already having a new welfare officer being trained in March. Obviously, all that got cancelled. Now, as it happens, we're covered because I'm also qualified and sort of stand in the background for these sort of emergencies. But is it possible that a new welfare officer can do both the SPC and the welfare officers course online?
Yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to open out the Safeguarding Young Cricketers for the welfare officer, and they're going to do Safe Hands Online. So it'll be a Safe Hands Online course which will be valid for 1 year, and we'll pick up the people that didn't get through the training. We'll obviously pick up those next year at the normal spring training program. We'll catch up with that.
So just to clarify, that's not appropriate for a new welfare officer as opposed to someone that just wants to needs to update.
Yeah, it's a temporary arrangement, Ian, for this year. The Safeguarding Young Cricketers is going to give a 1 year break for people that need to do it, to make sure they've got some training while we can't do any the face-to-face stuff.
Okay, so in my case, it's better that our welfare officer waits till the training comes in to follow, next March or whatever.
Well, I'd encourage them to do the online course because I don't think there'll be any cost to doing it, and it'll at least give them some background. So I'd encourage anybody that's a club welfare officer to do that and take advantage of it.
Okay, we'll look out for that. Thank you. But they will then have to do the full sit-down 3-hour course next year.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not going to be. Yeah, I don't think it'll be a 3-hour course, but I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Okay. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, Adders. Go on, mate.
Now, got one other thing to say, that from Grandstan's point of view, I'm very, very conscious that sort of 2 or 3 months ago we were underwater everywhere and we'd got floods, and I was going around grounds that were covered in silt, and we've gone from that to sort of drought conditions and with very, very dry grounds and grounds with water in them. And Steve Hollis, who's one of our advisors around grounds and pitches, did just remind me that he would be available if any club's got a concern on the ground, on the pitches. Particularly, he was worried about if you've had any new pitches laid or new squares. He was worried that you might be suffering a little bit from the dry conditions, but he's happy to talk to any groundsman or club that needs any help there. So that's another opportunity that you've got available to you.
Okay, thanks, Mick. Okay, I think we've got the ACO next. So, Adam, are you picking up the slide again?
Yeah, I can talk now. Can you hear?
Yeah, if you should be able to see your slide on the screen now.
Splendid. Afternoon, everyone. My bit's going to be quite brief because it's all very explanatory on the screen there, but these are the ways that the Umpires and Scorers Association have, particularly with the use of Zoom and social media, tried to keep our members and hopefully new members and all kinds of players and clubs entertained, engaged, and also to plan for if and when the cricket season resumes and the government give the green light. So on Saturdays, we've sought to try to mirror as best as we can what a match day would be to particularly for those people who are shielding or can't go or isolating, to turn up to a virtual ground on Zoom, to do some laws discussions, quizzes, cricket clips, and then just to socialise and have a drink together as best we can. So that's been a success. We have 30 odd members doing that. Then we're running more courses, and just on courses, the ECB have released introduction to umpiring courses, introduction to scoring courses, and a stage 1 umpiring course online. And during this period of lockdown, we really strongly recommend and hope that as many of you as have an interest in officiating could do that. And it looks like that when we do return, we may have fewer officials available due to shielding and isolating reasons. So it might be in your club's interest because you might not have games with 2 officials or as many games covered with officials in this season or next. But just a little overview there of what we're doing. And if you have any questions, please get in contact with us. We'd be delighted to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think just to reiterate that, I think the ACO are doing some great work, some really good engagement work with their members, and I'd encourage all clubs to try and think of ways of keeping your members engaged and active, whether it's through quizzes or post-match drinks, as the ACO called it. Anything innovative like that would be really welcomed, I think, at this time. Thanks, Adam. Okay, we're nearly at the questions time. Just wanted to again just ask that we've still got those 3 forms live on our website, where you can either log any questions or issues you may have, and we'll get back to you on that. But really just following on from together through this test, if you've got any fundraising initiatives you're going through at the moment, or any great ways that you've put in place to engage your members, then we'd really like to know what's going on and what you're doing, so we can share it with other clubs. And then the same around finances. So, share with us any financial challenges you've got, but also let us know if you've had any success in accessing other funding. That'll be really useful. Gaz, Harry, I've just seen you've put your hand up. Have you got a question?
Only if you're moving on to questions now, Woody, if that's all right.
There you go. Look.
Yeah, all right. There we go. As if by magic. It was going back to the practice and training sessions, really, Woody. Yeah. I think every club's very different. We've all got different levels of ability to provide that sort of supervisory cover, and the number of nets we've got to be able to do it. And we took the decision that, based on the times that we'd have somebody who'd be able to go and supervise it, and the number of nets that we were able to open, which essentially is just 1, it was a big commitment for a very, very small number of cricketers who would be able to benefit. So we decided that we wouldn't do it at the moment. But if the current guidelines are likely to be in place for a month or 2, then I think we're going to have to have a look at it. Is there any indication from the ECB that there might be some loosening of these guidance at some point in the next 3-4 weeks to enable larger groups of cricketers to train together?
At this stage, guys, no, we've not had anything else to say that they're going to be loosening off any guidelines. Our next call with the ECB is Wednesday. And I know there's due to be some more announcements, I think, from government. Is it later on today, which may impact that? So at the moment, no, I can't give you any clarity on that. One thing I would say just on the net use, guys, I think that there are also opportunities to use the outfield. I think some clubs have just seen it as it's the nets and it's sort of senior players and. But I think there are opportunities where families might want to, you might be able to open up the club for a family to go and, hit a few balls around or play some games on the outfield. So I think there are other ways of doing it. Okay. And I think just going back to the guidance earlier that around it not having to be just one person there all day, I think that should help give a bit more flexibility to clubs on opening up the facilities.
Yeah, we'll have another look, especially if we're looking at a couple of months. We're going to have to do something. I think we just thought, all right, well, it won't be long until something else is out, so let's leave it for a bit. But if we are looking at a couple of months, we're going to have to do something.
Yeah, I mean, as you pointed out at the start of the call on the chat, that the ECB have this afternoon put out another announcement that, that there's a delay in the getting back to cricket, basically, for both professional and recreational game to the 1st of August at the earliest. So I think that probably gives us a bit of an indication. But in terms of the guidelines, I think it just depends what comes out of government over the next week or so. Hope that helps. So yeah, we're at question and answer. So if anyone else has got any questions, then either put them in the chat or raise your hand through the raise hand function and fire away. An opportunity for you just to share what you're doing, and if there's anything that you want us to address, then now's your time.
Richard, could I ask a question? I haven't got the hands up option, unfortunately. Can I just ask a question on unmute?
Yes, of course, can you?
Maybe a bit premature at the moment, but in thinking about returning to cricket, and this may be a question for Adam, has any thought been given as to how scoring might work when we start playing, particularly given that it's hard to socially distance in a score box. Scorebooks themselves may sort of lead to transmission of infection, and even manual scoring boards, etc., may be an issue and a risk. Has that been given any thought, or is there any guidance, or can it be given some thought?
I'll let Adam jump in if he's got anything to add, and then I'll go. Adam, have you got anything?
Yeah, well, we've not put out any official correspondence for obvious reasons, because we need to know when we're playing first. But the conversations I've been having with our county scorers officer has been along those lines as how to make it practical. Ideas have been floated, such as seeing which clubs have wide enough score boxes to maintain the required distance, whatever it may be at the time. If you need to put up any perspex between the scorers, having scorers sit outside, having one scorer instead of two, or having scorers sit far enough apart at the same ground, but with phone or radio communication between them. So a lot has been discussed, and we're doing a lot behind the scenes, so that once we're ready to hit the ground, we're ready to be prepared. I hope that helps a bit.
Yes, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
I think just to add to that, I think there's a lot of discussion going on, at ECB level and government, ECB with government around, what is going to be possible if and when we return to cricket. So I'm pretty confident that at that point there will be, similar to the open space guidelines that they've produced. I think there will be some really clear guidelines on what is and isn't possible when cricket returns. Hadders, you have your hand up.
I do. I was just going to ask the group really whether there'd been any rumours from the league about what they might be considering. Obviously, we don't know dates and how long, but whether any feedback?
Yeah, so we at the moment are having a. Sorry, can you just someone mute the microphone? It's just got a bit of an echo. Might be yours, Hadders, or Mick, one of you. Yeah, we have a weekly call with Premier and County League at the moment. Obviously, the biggest league in the county from a senior point of view. So we're having regular conversations, and we are planning for various scenarios. We are hoping to try and get some communication out next week. I missed the call this morning, so Mick might have further info to add on that. But we're hoping to get something out, a bit of a joint comms to clubs, just on what it's likely to look like if and when we return. Mick, you were on the call this morning, so you might be better placed to add to that. Go for it.
Yeah, the league are working quite hard in the background to come up with something, just depending on the length of time that we have. So they're looking at different scenarios. If you got 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 weeks, so they're trying to come up with a scenario that would be supportive and create some meaningful cricket for clubs to play in that period. And I think it's probably also worth stressing that junior leagues are trying to do the same thing. So everybody does seem to be working to try and get in a place that if there's an opportunity to play cricket, we're ready to go and do something in whatever window that we get. And other than that, and there's also, of course, the leagues involved in regular updates with the ECB as well. So there is that conversation going on in the background all the time.
Sorry, does that answer that as best we can?
Yes, I appreciate the moving target. I just wondered whether they were sort of mentioned about, possibly focusing on T20s or whether there is any ideas coming out.
Yeah, I think they're the kind of discussions we're having at the moment, is to, depending on the time frame we have, what does that look like? So, smaller regionalised groups, do we play T20? Do we play different formats? Obviously, the league put out that questionnaire to clubs recently just to try and gain some insight into what position clubs are in. So I think that's been helpful in forming some of that information. But yeah, there's a lot of work going on. So I'm pretty confident if and when we're able to play again, we'll be in a good position.
Yeah, Richard, what I'd say is that probably the league will definitely look at trying to get regionalisation, more of a regionalisation if it's a small window. So they'll look to get teams playing as closely together as they can within a league. So, for example, they might split the league into 2 leagues if that makes sense, and try and get the geography right. It just depends how many weeks they have to play with.
Yeah, great. Any other questions from anyone? Carol, I've just seen your question. It's the 1st of August date for professional cricket only or recreational cricket too. I think in the article on this one, it actually does state includes recreational cricket. I think someone else might have read it as well to back me up on that. But I think it's pretty much all cricket suspended until at least the 1st of August. I hope that clears that one up. Any other questions?
Sorry, I've no hands up. Mick Sharp. I wonder whether you could tell us, is there any chance that we'd start off with just the Premier League, for the first couple of weeks? Have anybody thought along those lines?
I don't think it's not something we've considered that. I think we try and get as many playing as we can at the relevant time. I think one thing we have considered is whether clubs will be able to field, if it's a 2 or 3 team club, will they still be able to field all of their teams? I think that's one consideration we've talked through with the league. But we've not looked at just one division coming back to cricket at the moment, because I think the same conditions will apply across all of it, as and when those guidelines come out. Is that okay?
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. Any others before I move us on? No. Okay. So that's pretty much it in terms of what we'd got on the agenda to cover. Just a bit of a summary, really. So, as we've just discussed, different scenarios that might happen. So please continue as a club to plan for a return to cricket at some point. Keep in touch with your members to ensure that they're still going to be playing as and when we return. The financial element, just we sent out that forecast document. Hopefully some have used it if you haven't got anything in place yourselves. But look long term, so what does next year look like if there's no cricket? don't just obviously look at the next the next couple of months. So think ahead to next season and see what your finances are going to look like at that point. The point I made earlier around sharing initiatives and ideas, we're really keen to gather as much information on that as possible, so we can showcase what we're doing as a county, and continue to follow us on our social media channels. We'll be putting plenty of content out on there over the next month or so. Our details, as I said, there's only the three of us working, so our details are on the screen there. Bear with us a little bit. There is only the three of us, so if we don't, get back to you straight away, we're working through as quickly as we can, and doing the best we can to support you as clubs. So that's it from us. If there's any more questions, then we'll hang around for a few minutes after the call, and feel free to ask. We will share the call, the recording with you along with the slides. It'll probably be tomorrow lunchtime because we've got one more call to do tomorrow morning. So we'll share them at some point tomorrow with you, and the call will go on. The recording will be on our YouTube channel again. Pick up the phone, email us if you need anything. But other than that, thank you again for joining us, and continue to stay safe. Thank you very much.
I think Tim's got a question, Rich.
Sorry?
I think Tim Rance has got a question.
Okay, yeah, sorry, Tim.
Hi, Woody. Yeah, so we've discussed the guidance on opening the nets up, and we've also decided not to open at the moment. There's a big concern about liability. So I'll give you an example. I went down to do some hedge cutting the other day, and found two lads who weren't even members of the club playing in our nets, even though they were shut. And the nets were blocked off. We put signs up. They'd taken the barricade down and put the nets down. They were playing in our nets. So say they had COVID, and then we arrived and did some coaching, and unfortunately someone contracted COVID from that. I'm just wondering where the extent of our liability is. It's kind of a big concern with our committee.
Yeah.
Would we be liable for someone catching it?
We had this question asked on the call earlier, and all I said was that obviously the guidelines that have been produced by the ECB have been run through the legal teams and insurance, and they're obviously compliant as guidelines. But all I could advise on that is really to have that conversation with your insurers, because as we know, all insurers are different, aren't they, in some ways. And I'd hate to say to you, Tim, that you're fine, you're covered, and then you're not. So I think it'd be wise to have that conversation with your insurance. I'm not sure how you can police that in terms of people just turning up. I think if you've got signs up and saying the nets are closed and the site's locked and things, then you'd think that maybe removes any liability. But I'm not an insurance expert, so I'd advise you speak to the insurance about that. Sorry for sitting on the fence on that one.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you.
No problem. Any others before we close off? I'm just conscious we're bang on time, actually. No. Okay, great stuff. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Please follow up with us if there's any other questions, and have a good weekend, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.